Hello there. Welcome back. Football Barbie here, and welcome to the 2023 mock draft. Who cannot be excited about the draft? Because at the end of the day, if you have a favorite player, your favorite player for sure came from the draft. So, no matter who your player may be and who you want, and whoever your team is in the football league, mine being the Eagles, you're going to be super excited to find out who your team is picking. So I wanted to give a couple players just to start, some of the top people that are going to be in the draft, top spots. And every team in the first 3-4 people are gunning for quarterbacks. So at the end of the day, these people are going there. And it's crazy to see like how people, like players are rising and falling. You just don't know what the teams are going to choose. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, you can only be like so form of accurate. I mean, this is why this becomes like a huge gambling thing because you just never know who's going to be who. So number 1, Bryce Young. Everybody is really looking for Bryce Young. It's between him and CJ Stroud as to who's going to go first or second. Bryce Young last year had 3,328 yards, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in his last 12 games. I mean, that's really good. Apparently, he doesn't panic with the ball. He creates big plays, and he was the 2021 Heisman Trophy winner. Now, I would just like to state that if I didn't already and you didn't see my first video, that I am not the biggest college football fan. I don't mind college football. I just prefer to watch the NFL. But as a football fan, the draft makes me super excited because obviously every team needs some new players. And this is just how you get amazing players. You just got to draft them. So let's see. Number 2, CJ Stroud. He's a quarterback. He had 3,688 pass yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in his last 13 games. I mean, that's a lot to me. That's good. He has the best like pre-planned snap. So like when he's about to throw the ball, he's a good eye of where it's going to go. And he has a more really good post-planned execution. He just has an idea of like what to do when players start moving. So that's something that's kind of hard to teach. Number 3, Anthony Richardson as a quarterback. Though he needs to be more like developed. Apparently last year, his completion rate was only 54%. So he needs to be able to work with like a good coach in order to help teach him. You know, like I said, no normally rookie quarterback is really the best anyway. It does take them normally a few years to catch their stride. He had 17 pass touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns, and 2,949 pass yards last season. As for number 4, Will Levis out of Kentucky. He was 17-7 in the 24 starts of his last year. He had 43 touchdowns and 23 interceptions. Now, that's kind of a lot of interceptions, though, to me, but we'll see. But he does have a good elite arm strength, so that does help with those longer throwing passes, along with his really good physicality. As for number 5, Hendon Hooker, like 3,135 pass yards, 27 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in 11 games last season. Not bad, if you ask me. He's decisive in his pass and running game, and he's a really good winning intelligence. As for the top defense player that it seems to be, everybody's looking towards Jalen Carter from Georgia, defensive line. He's up to the team that drafts him to surround him, though, with better weapons in order for him to do very well. He needs to be developed, more maturity, and some more work ethic. The top receivers, there are a good couple top receivers coming out of this class, but the class was kind of light this year on the receivers. You have Jackson Edith from Ohio State. He had the 2021 in his season for 1,606 receiving yards. And that was an Ohio State University single season record. So that's phenomenal. Quentin Johnston out of TCU. Now, people are a little skeptical in this one, but it seems like the consensus, though, is that he is definitely going to go within the first round. A lot of the first round teams aren't necessarily looking towards wide receivers. It's more like defense and quarterbacks, to be exact. Quentin Johnson is the 2-time first team All Big 12. So he was nominated by the Big 12 as a top wide receiver for the past 2 years in 2021 and 2022. So that's extremely well. Then you got Zay Flowers out of Boston College. For his career, he had 200 receptions, 3,056 receiving yards, 29 receiving touchdowns. He holds the career college record for the Boston. I mean, Boston's not necessarily one of the top rated schools for football, but still to hold your career for the college isn't that bad for him to be able to do that. I mean, that's awesome. As for top tight ends, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame, he was a 2022 Associated Press first team All-American. Then you also got Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, most receptions by FBS tight end last season, 70 receptions. And then as for number 3, you have Luke Musgrave, Oregon State. 2022 only played 2 games, but he did do actually well in the 2021 season. Now let's get into it. Round 1. I mean, this is super exciting. It comes on Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. So just the first round on Thursday, but everybody looks forward to the first round as other rounds go on. Obviously, teams get more than what they need, but the first round is where people are going to get the most amount of their money. So Carolina Panthers, they get the first pick from the Chicago Bears. I'm going to be explaining to you why people have what pick if the picks actually did change. So Carolina Panthers are the first pick for the Chicago Bears. The Chicago record for last season was 3-14, so they were the worst in the division. Sometimes I think that people really do try to throw the last few games or something in order for you to get a better draft pick, but who knows? While the Panthers actually did have a record to 7-10. 7 wins, 10 losses. The Bears received DJ Moore, wide receiver from Carolina, along with the number 9 pick, 2023 seasoned round pick or second round pick, and 2024 first round pick, and 2025 second round pick. So you can tell that the Carolina Panthers really do need a quarterback. Now, they did have Cam Newton for last year, but currently they don't have him anymore. So he's want to play with him as a 1-year contract. He's currently a free agent. So I have a feeling that they might go to not Bryce Young. I think they might pick CJ from Ohio State for the quarterback. But it is between him and Bryce Young from Alabama. As for the second pick, it goes to Houston. Houston was not necessarily the best of team last year. They had a record of 3-13-1. They have Davis Mills. However, they are in need of the really good quarterback. So there is a good chance that they will probably take Bryce Young, Alabama. Like I said, obviously, if not CJ Stroud. I mean, can you really kind of put a thing on this? Some people are saying Bryce Young for 1. Some people are saying CJ Stroud for number 1 pick. But it's really, at the end of the day, it's up to the teams to decide who's going to be number 1. So, third pick goes to Arizona, with them having a record of last season of 4-13. They're needing a defensive end since their defense last year really did not perform well. It seems they've been leaning towards Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama. Okay, so we'll see. Let's see. Will Anderson did really well last year, so let's just see what exactly happens. As for the fourth pick, goes to the Colts. Now, we all know that the Colts do need a quarterback. So, who are they going to choose? They were 4-12-1 last year. The Colts, which I think funny as an Eagles fan, the Colts currently have Nick Foles and Gardner Minshew as their quarterbacks currently, but they do need definitely a better one. I mean, Nick Foles technically didn't win the Eagles a Super Bowl, but I feel like he necessarily hasn't really had too much chance to shine since then. So they are desperately looking for a quarterback, and I think they're going to go to Anthony Richardson from Florida. As for the fifth picks, it goes to the Seahawks by getting their spot from the Denver Broncos. The Broncos last season had a record of 5-12, while the Seattle had a record of 9-8. And this is why the Seahawks get their pick from the Broncos. In March 2022, the Seahawks sent Russell Wilson, the quarterback, to the Broncos for the 2023 first round and 2024 first round pick. Now, Seattle also needs a defensive line because they just have some more like depth issues on their interior. They're leading maybe possibly towards Jalen Carter out of Georgia. Like I said, he's probably going to be one of the number one defensive people here. So let's just see if he does go very early on. As for the 6th pick, it goes to Detroit Lions, getting their pick from the Rams, where the Lions had a record last season of 9-8, while the Rams had a record of 5-12. Now, the reason that Detroit Lions happens to get this pick is when Stafford from the Lions and Goff switched their places. Then in 2021 as the quarterbacks, the Lions received 3rd round pick 2021, 1st round pick 2022, and 1st round pick 2023 in that trade. So that's really good. The Lions, though, are in need of a cornerback to guard all of their receivers. They are leaning towards possibly Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. He is a very fluid player. So let's see. However, I didn't say, though, for number 3 for the 3rd pick, there is possibly a chance that a lot of people are hinting that Arizona is going to switch with the Titans. But obviously, at this current moment, I'm filming this on Tuesday. That has not happened yet. So it is apparently possibly going to happen. So I did just want to put that out there. As for the 7th pick, that goes to the Raiders with a record last season of 6-1. Like, not the best. So they need more help in our secondary. So they are aiming for a cornerback by looking possibly towards Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. He is short, but he does checks the boxes like in a lot of other places. As for the 8th pick, it goes to the Falcons, with them having a record last season for 7-10. Not the best either. They need some more wide receivers, and they're possibly going to lean toward Jackson Smith from Ohio State. So we'll definitely be curious to see how that one goes. As for the 9th pick, to the Chicago Bears, as earlier stated, they're just definitely, I know obviously they traded and everything like that, but we will definitely see what happens. So obviously stated their records already. They do need an edge player. The Bears might lean towards Tyree Wilson out of Texas. As for the 10th pick, goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Eagles, we last year had a record of 14-3. We tagged that, I'm pretty sure, it was exactly Kansas City. We did get this pick from the Saints, which I already did know this personally, but obviously, in 2022, the Saints got both of their Eagles' 16th and 19th pick in round 1, as well as the 6th round pick. The Eagles then got the Saints' 18th pick in round 1, 3rd round pick in 2022, 7th round pick in 2022, and the Saints' 1st round pick in 2023, and the Saints' 2nd round pick in 2024. So we definitely traded some people up for that. That's what happens. So the Eagles do need to improve their offensive line. Now, we did get some people hurt last year, and that definitely wasn't a good thing. It looks like we might lean towards Myles Murphy out of Clemson. He needs some development, but he can be compared to Josh Allen, the linebacker, not the quarterback. As for the 11th pick, it goes to the Titans, currently standing, because like I said, there is a chance that the 11th pick and the 3rd pick with the Cardinals could possibly switch, is what everybody's hinting at, but let's find out on draft day. So the Titans had a record last season of 7-10. They are in need of a tackle or a guard, so looking more for like an offensive tackle, possibly choosing Peter Skoronski. I'm sorry, some of these people's names I am not the best at actually stating. He's out of Northwestern. So this is like I said, the Cardinals do not switch their picks. But he is really, though, best as a left tackle. And that's somebody who you need if your quarterback needs to be protected. As for the 12th pick of the round, it goes to the Texans. So now they had a record last season of 3-13-1. When Houston did trade Watson to Cleveland, Houston received the Browns' 1st round pick in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Houston needs more weapons, as in wide receivers, where they're possibly leaning towards Zay Flowers from Boston College. Like I said, he's supposed to be one of those top wide receivers. The 13th pick goes to Green Bay. Now, this is something that I'm happy that I waited a moment to film this, because Green Bay just got rid of Aaron Rodgers and he is going to the Jets. Now, sorry to the fans who are Green Bay fans, but I do curious to see as to how Aaron Rodgers is going to do for the Jets. I think that he was a phenomenal player for the Green Bay when he did play for them, and he played well. I mean, the fact that he apparently 2022 was his worst season, but he put up really good numbers, you really can't complain about that. So this is because now that Aaron Rodgers is now going to the Jets. So the Jets gave a lot of picks were switched here. The Jets gave Green Bay first round pick, second round pick, and the 6th round pick, and next year's second round pick. But that next year's second round pick could become a first round pick if Aaron Rodgers manages to play 65% of the games. So, who are the Packers going to pick? The Packers tight end is slacking. They used to have a really good tight end, but they don't have him anymore. The Packers tight end is slacking. Their further first round pick might be to pick up tight end Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. He could be apparently the next generation's Jason Witten. Now, I thought Jason Witten for a Cowboys player was phenomenal. I thought he was a really, really, really good player for the Cowboys. Obviously, he's not with them anymore, but he did really, really well with the Cowboys. So, him and now Ezekiel Elliott was my favorite Cowboys player, and Ezekiel Elliott is obviously not going back. He just apparently wanted too much money. So I do hope that somebody does pick him up. I would have loved to, as an Eagles player, get a really, really good running back like Derrick Henry or Ezekiel Elliott, but no, we'll see. As for the 14th pick, it goes to the Patriots with a 2022 record of 8-9. The Patriots need help with their offensive line and will possibly lean towards an offensive tackle in Paris Johnston Jr. from Ohio State. He does have his starting experience at multiple spots, so that really could help out the Patriots. As for the 15th pick, now I said Green Bay and the Jets switch. So the 15th pick now goes to the Jets, where they were currently 13. They had a record of 2022 of 7-10. So the Jets are receiving the Aaron Rodgers in the trade, along with Green Bay's 1st and 5th round pick for 2023. They need to work on their offensive line, though, so they are possibly going to get an offensive tackle. They might lead towards DeWan Jones from Ohio State. So he did play really well for the Ohio State, and Ohio State obviously is one of those colleges that is extremely recognized for their football players, and a lot of really good players do come from Ohio State. So let's see what goes on. As for the 16th pick, it goes to the Washington Commanders, who have a record last season of 8-1. They need help with their run game, so they may lead towards Osiris Torrance. He is a big frame guard who can anchor a run almost immediately. As for the 17th pick, it goes to the Steelers, having a record of 9-8 last season. I'm really happy that Kenny Pickett is their quarterback. I think he's doing really well in a place of Ben Roethlisberger. So we'll just see what happens with the Steelers. But I feel like they do need some defense, and they may lead towards a cornerback in Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State, which go team. That would be like my basically home college for NFL for college if I was a root for one. He did have a really good combine experience. So we'll see how well he does in the draft. As for the 18th pick, it goes back to Detroit, which was their regular pick. Record again was 9-8. Defensive some of the lines are definitely slacking, so they may lean towards a defensive line player in Brian Bresee from Clemson. 19th pick goes to Tampa Bay. Now, I'm kind of sad that Tom Brady's no longer playing for them. I did see that they obviously signed Baker Mayfield. It's definitely not the numbers that Tom Brady had, but I'm really curious to see how they're going to do. So their record last year's season was 8-9 for 2022. They could definitely use some help with their safety. So I think they might lean towards Brian Branch from Alabama. He is a hybrid defender. If they don't go safety, then they definitely need an offensive line. So let's see how that one goes. The 20th pick goes to Seattle, their original pick with a 9-8 record. They're needing an edge. It's such a good value pick if they manage to get up Nolan Smith from Georgia. So, we'll just see because they definitely do need an edge player. 21 was supposed to go to Miami. However, they tampered with Tom Brady and Sean Payton from the 2021 season. And as per NFL rules, you are definitely not allowed to do that. And they got caught. So a lot of drama happened with Miami the past few years. But hey, I was happy that they picked up Tyreek Hill, which is my favorite player on their team. I absolutely love Tyreek Hill, and I'm going to be sad when he retires. Like, if I could have a Miami jersey, I would 100% go for Hill. Like, I thought he was phenomenal in Kansas City, and then they got rid of him, and Kansas City proved that they don't need him because obviously they won their Super Bowl without him. So, however, for Miami, they obviously didn't get it. So the 21 pick does go to the Chargers with a record of 10-7 last season. It is possible that they will reach for like a cornerback. If so, they might take Julius Brents from Kansas State. If not, the Chargers do need a wide receiver. And this year's wide receiver class is kind of the more light side of how good people were. But I mean, there's always good people to still choose from. The 22nd pick goes to the Ravens with a record of 10-7 last season. They are in need of a cornerback, so they might look towards Darius Rush from South Carolina. The 23rd pick goes to the Vikings with a season record for 2022 of 13-4. The Vikings killed it. Like I said, they were super close to being able to come into that first spot seed for the AFC, and they just didn't get it because Kansas City just obviously dominated the whole league. But Kirk Cousins did really good on hanging on and putting up some really good numbers last year for the Vikings. So they need a cornerback this year, and they possibly might choose Deonte Banks from Maryland. They need to add depth and talent to their cornerback room. So, it's always good to have options. He does have really good deep athleticism. As for the 24th pick, it goes to the Jaguars with a record last season 9-8. Now, the Jaguars have done the best I feel like they have in quite a few years. Trevor Lawrence did really well on bringing them to that. So they're really good. They're getting definitely better. So they keep needing better picks. They are needing more of an offensive tackle by possibly choosing Broderick Jones from Georgia. As for the 25th pick, it goes to the New York Giants with a record last year of 9-7-1. I truly do hate this on a side note, this tie nonsense, because I just feel like it messes everything up. There has got to be in the NFL a better way to discern these ties because it is stupid. The fact that they have these ties. But the Giants are needing to protect the quarterback and need to choose possibly an interior offensive line in John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota. As for the 26th pick, it goes to the Cowboys with a record last season of 12-5. Like I said, everybody in the NFC East was neck and neck on who was possibly going to be number one. Like those last season games really mattered. With Jalen Hurts getting hurt for 2 of those games, it didn't help our case as an Eagles fan, but we did manage to pull through as a number 1 pick. So after losing Elliott, they are in need of a running back. Like I said, Ezekiel Elliott was a phenomenal running back. It's really hard to play against him. That man was just an animal. He is a beast. So as a Cowboys fan, he currently would have been my favorite player on the Cowboys, but he is no longer there. So now after losing him, they might look towards, which everyone is talking about, Bijan Robinson from Texas. He is very close to a perfect back as you can be. I mean, he is a little bit on the shorter side, but at the end of the day, if he gets the job done, he gets the job done. As for the 27th pick, it goes to Buffalo at 13-3. So Josh Allen could really use more deep threats by attaining another wide receiver and possibly Quentin Johnston from TCU. He's super explosive and he does help to add to big plays, which Buffalo is known for doing. As for the 28th pick, it goes to the Bengals, who had a record last season of 12-4. They're looking more towards a cornerback and possibly could choose Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami. For 29th, it goes to the Saints. Having their record be at 7-10 last year, they're definitely hurting. They're definitely, not the team that used to be when Drew Brees played. Now that they just picked up Derek Carr, I'll be very curious to see if Derek Carr can help their record. But they did obtain their pick from the 49ers. So apparently, the Broncos earned the first-round pick of the 49ers, but the Broncos traded the Saints for Sean Payton, therefore getting the Saints back in round 1 of the draft. So good for them. And I'm going to be really curious. So now Sean Payton's going to the Broncos. I'll be really curious to see how he does for the Broncos. Now, they are also trying to fix their defense and choose a defensive line. I am really sorry. I don't think I'm going to say this name correctly. Adetomiwa Adeborwe from Northwestern. So we'll see how well they do there. Now, the 33rd pick does go back to the Philadelphia Eagles at 14-3, which is our original pick, at having lost the Super Bowl, which is, but it's good that they do it in some kind of order like this, but still sucks. So it does seem that we may go for an offensive tackle, but we need to kind of plan for that future. And we might take Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. And lastly, the 31st pick goes to the Super Bowl winner, Kansas City. Does anybody have a clue? Who do you think would do this? Who picked them? Comment. And let me know how many of my picks compared against yours. Having a record of 14-3. They're in need of offensive tackle where either position Darnell Wright, either tackle position. So Darnell Wright possibly from Tennessee. So that's all definitely 31 first picks for the draft. Now, it's obviously the first round is the most exciting. They got their 15 minutes in between. I'm definitely going to be trying to watch the draft. I really hope it is super exciting. You definitely want to see, I feel so happy for these players when they actually get picked and everything. You never know how it's going to go. And you really think that you might know. And I will just never forget last year when I watched it, the Eagles were supposed to be up next. And all of a sudden they got switched because they traded positions. So it's just you never know what exactly is going to happen. One team can be up next. And it's my thing is does anybody else agree? Comment if anybody else agrees. Would you, I would be a fly in the wall in a draft room. To me, it's hurry up, call the Saints. If you're Ravens, call the Saints. Tell them we want to switch for a quarterback. Tell them that we want to switch positions. I'm sure there's so much intensive thoughts and emotions and everything going on with who's going to pick who for the draft and who's going to possibly trade and who's trading last minute and who does this person want is this person. It just gets so exciting. I really kind of wish we get to see the NFL would show even just brief clips inside of it, 10-second clips inside of one of the rooms for the teams when they're picking these draft picks, because gosh, I feel it's the most fascinating thing to me to be able to sit there and watch the intensity of these conversations and how people probably have to hurry up and pick up the phones or text this person or who knows what they do. I would love to see. But so that is definitely it. I hope everybody looks forward to it. And then I will do a recap on the draft and now what happens next. So love you all.